And good afternoon or good lunch, good morning, wherever you are in the world looking with you. Welcome to Danish and Coffee. This is Friday, 1st of May, and we are live with Danish and Coffee. And hello, everybody joining today outside the room. We have over 150 people registered today. If you're watching, welcome to the show today, or if you're watching on a later stage, welcome on a later time. So, with fantastic guests today, Kevin, we are not alone today. We have guests from the outside. Welcome, Kevin.
I think I'm only going to get a minute to speak today because it's so busy. I think you told me that compliance is going to be limited to a very short period, probably after we've launched our new video.
Yeah, that will come in a second. And welcome, Fred Lawrence. If you don't know Fred out there, he is one of the most prominent figures in the collection industry in Europe. And I brought a good friend with a lot of energy. I'm calling you Martin number 2, Rob Johnson from Policy and Practice. Good, welcome to you all. Today's topic is outbound. Last week we talked inbound. We had Alistair Skeels from BPO joining us. Today we're going to talk practical outbound with voice AI in collection. First little bit in a second will be what's legal, what should you do, what is the compliance framework. Fred, you're going to share your experience. What do you do? What do you think? What kind of strategies are you running today with success? And what is your best advice to people needing to start this concept up? And Rob, you and me, we have cooking on something special. Is about how do you get positive engagement in a difficult situation. But before we kick it all off, we're going to talk about compliance and what's actually legal. And it's not because I like to do commercial videos a little bit in the middle of a LinkedIn show, but let's start with that today. Hang on for 1.5 minutes while we show you our little new product video about Mega, because it set the scene for precisely what Kevin needs to catch up on. What do you need to get compliant enough to do outbound in a regulated environment? Let's hit it on for the first video in 1.5 minutes. We will be back again and give you more good insight.
Hello, I am Mega AI. I am a deterministic voice AI platform built for regulated collections. I am not generative. I am not probabilistic. Every response is engineered, not inferred. I operate across both inbound and outbound collections, delivering consistent performance in real time with zero latency. Every response is controlled. Every pathway is predefined. Every interaction follows a structured, auditable process. Each call progresses through defined phases: identity and verification, financial positioning, payment resolution, controlled escalation. At every stage, outcomes are clear, compliant, and fully traceable. Decision paths are logged. Escalations are structured. Interactions are recorded with complete auditability. Compliance is not added, it is embedded. FCA-aligned logic, vulnerability routing, secure audit trails, all built into the system architecture. There is no reliance on third-party AI. This is infrastructure-level control. And when human judgment is required, conversations are seamlessly transferred, with full context preserved. Automation where safe, humans where required. This is controlled, predictable, compliant execution at scale. No guesswork, no unpredictability, no risk. Uncontrolled AI is not an option. See it in action now. Book a demo today.
And thanks for that little Kickstarter with full energy. But I think they set the scene quite good, Kevin, for a little bit compliance discussion. Kick it off, my friend.
Yeah, nice little segue there. And well done to Nathan, who's helped us out with that video. A big up for him. He's helped us with a number of our events, the Affordability Summit and others. Yeah, so a lot of the things that we're looking at today, there are a lot of synergies between both inbound and outbound, but clearly outbound's always viewed as slightly more emotive of the two topics. Within the UK, and I'll talk mainly about the UK today, reasonably clear frameworks between what you need to do around the Ofcom regulations, data protection, notably the personal electronic communication regs, and for most of us in this space, the Financial Conduct Authority, Consumer Duty. So what's really happened in the last few years, there's been, in my view, a more adaptable regime, which is looking around how you bring in more control but at the same time, more flexibility, taking account that AI is moving at a phenomenally fast rate, not just within the sort of agentic space, but more generally. So the things that I think that were highlighted there several times, which is the human in the loop element of it. So even if you're using a bot to do actually the outbound piece, it's always recognizing the consumer has a choice, and that really at the earliest opportunity, if they want to revert. Now, the bit that we've got to be clear on here is when we're talking about debt resolution, there's always going to be a solicited communication. And I think we've talked about this before, Martin, when we talk with clients, notably those in North America, is we're in a situation here where this is part of an existing credit agreement where you have every right to make contact with that consumer, but consumer choice has got to actually take a role within that. So everything we hear is there is a reason for the call. It's not unsolicited, but you've got to take heed of what the consumer preferences are and give them options. And that's really what the video is encapsulating. Great APIs in the background, integrating with specialist providers, whether it be Rob's policy in practice, income optimization, whether it's an affordability check, whether it's a vulnerability check, or just that somebody wants to speak to a human being. So regulation shouldn't really get in the way, would be my view. We've got to be mindful that there are different regs in different parts of the world. And Fred may talk about the EU AI Act to some degree. There are differences for some of the multinational clients we're dealing with. But as a rule, I would say most of this, AI, using AI outbound is not a barrier. It's got to be thought about carefully with all the same usual principles we look at, which is good governance, good data management, so that we use it. And that's particularly true in this space, that you're using data very effectively. And I think, as Fred may touch on, actually pre-engagement to make sure somebody's aware that they're going to get called and that they may be speaking to a bot at some juncture, so there's no surprises. And I think that really, summing a lot of it up, is no surprises. It doesn't feel like it's a coerced call. And one of the things the guys may want to talk about a little bit is AI is getting so good that you don't want to speak to what sounds like Archie the robot, but equally well, you probably don't want them sounding so human that actually it can become a slight distraction in the call. So a lot of it is behavioral science, Martin.
Yeah, thanks for that good insight, and I think it sets a good scene in general also for what is it, and one of the big things that every framework is for us is built on is deterministic, and again that we can guarantee what the agent is saying when it's going to call people. That's of course a big thing, but there is also how to begin to engage, and you touched a little bit very important about it also, about actually communicating to the client before you do those calls. Fred, welcome to you also. You and me have a special story because you are actually a part of Mega AI today, but you were not one of the most fantastic stories because you also own a big collection agencies and you have been working in this sector for, 3 decades more or less, and becoming a customer with us and later on an employee. That maybe shows a little bit about how good you think the product is. Can you loop us in a little bit about what do you do outbound-wise? What your strategy? What is your thoughts on this?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm the lucky guy. I was indeed in an early stage connected to Mega, and they explained me about this AI agents, or no, AI bots. Now they are called agents with their own characters. But I think, yes, indeed, I was skeptical in the beginning because I was used to work with agents that you could press 1 and 2, and you could do that for several times, and you were still in the same menu, and you didn't get the result. So I was skeptical. But at the time, Martin asked me to look into this more defined ways and roadmaps, I would say. And I think that was a very good story because I could use it in my own practice. And how nice is it to work with a company and become the first customer also, so you can see and test. And I think coming back to Kevin immediately, I think what Kevin said from the start, I think that was a really good thing. It's an option that you offer to a debtor, another option. So it's not have to be seen as a threat to a customer. If you do it very, very clever into an announced way, then I think you can have better results. And why? I think when we normally would do an outbound call in a call center, many people stopped with that before, and they stopped due to COVID, or they stopped due to the fact there was no employees or staff possibilities anymore. But I think if you do in early stage, try to reach a customer, try to help them to create a solution. That's the best step to do it. You could do it in several ways. And of course, early engagement, that will be the best. So what we decided to do is, let's first replace the human by the AI agent. That doesn't work. I know for sure that doesn't work. But if you would do it slightly different, announce in the morning that today you will be called by an AI agent. That's immediately changing the scene immediately. And why? If a human would be doing a call, an outbound call, you're not aware that he would call you today. But now you know that an AI agent will call you. And if you then set the scene in that announcement, what is to be expected? We expect you to do an ID&V. And if you've done ID&V, we could help you out. We could help you to solve the debt. We can do it in two ways. We could send you a link, or we could maybe negotiate an installment. Or if you would like to speak to a human being during the conversation, always possible. I think that's the good start already of a conversation. And of course, if you do the pre-announcement very well, you could put a link, or you could put something else to your web service portal to not having that call. Is that a success story of Mega? I think it is. And why it is? You would never have sent that outbound or that out notice to anyone if you were not planning to make that call. So I think if you do that in the early phase, the person itself, they know they're going to be called. They know somebody wants to help them. And sometimes it's easier to speak to an AI agent instead of somebody judging you, or you having the feeling they are being judged. And I think that's how we started up. So we started up just doing it step for step. First a call only, then a pre-announcement by email, then an hour before an SMS. If people hang up, just leave another message. Sorry, the line was broken. Or we will call you back. Or if not, please call us back. And you just do it reverse. Yeah. If you have that strategy, you can easily just pick it up from the start before it ends in debt collection. Maybe not a good sign for the debt collectors, but I think so. It is a very good sign. And why? Vulnerability, you would recognize from the start. Is it something that I see as a different product? No, I don't see it. It's a part. It's just another flow in collection. If you see somebody vulnerable, just put them into another flow. You recognize it from start. You just dedicate it somewhere else. You save cost at the end. And you just make the customer journey, you just optimize it.
And you touched a little bit also, we are talking also with clients that are not DCAs or typical debt collection agency, but that early prevention also actually with why we have a lot of conversations. Client was saying, why do you actually have a dispute? Oh, but dispute was because X, Y, Z, da. But could you actually prevent that from being a problem or a dispute? Then it become a service call in my world. You also mentioned sometimes we can call it collection call or pre-collection call. But if you call early just to confirm that everything is okay, that you get what you got, is the invoice, is everything. So you can do those early engagement where it's also becoming a positive, hopefully a service-wise experience that you are doing. But Fred, you also said a little bit about, you can touch a little bit about also how you look about the strategies that you are running. You are doing multiple collection on multiple countries in Europe and UK also. Are there different strategies that you would run in different countries based on where you are culture-wise, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. Culture-wise, for sure. I think every country is different. And of course, as what Kevin was saying, of course, legislation is different. So if you look in the easy countries, let's say the developed countries, you have to be very clever looking at the legal restrictions you have. But I think just if you stay within the act, you announce what you're doing. We're not doing sales call. We're doing customer services call just to protect the customer and getting into bigger problems. So I don't see that as an issue. Of course, you need to respect the country legislation. So in some countries, the Netherlands, you're not allowed to call after a certain time frame. But you could be open with an AI call if people try to reach you. So that's one thing. If you look at Spain, fine country, you could do it. But in Spain, it would be not so clever not to follow up like 20 times a day, because that's harassment. And that's for the UK the same. You would never do that. You just would do it in a decent way. But I see it just as an opportunity, again, just to reroute the customer. So selling out the product is nice, but officially you're selling out a customer enrichment. So you can sell to your customers, but also to the debtors, that you will try to help them again. pre-announce, indeed, find out, is there a dispute with the debt? How difficult can it be? Are you expect to be paying before due date? If not, can I help you? So it's not thinking only about replacing human, it's replacing or rethinking your total strategy.
Oh, I love that word, rethinking. Rethinking, we're coming back to very soon. Before we jump down to that line, and rethinking, because this is, actually my favorite subject in the world. I'm an outbound guy. I did outbound for over 20 years. I had 700 people in my call centers doing 3-4 million outbound calls a month for years and years and years. So I love it. And nothing is just the same. You touched a little bit about it also, Fred. What's the strategy you are running in the country? What is the customer segment you are working with? And if you know something about that customer segment before you call them, like you touched upon, Kevin, vulnerability. Are they vulnerable on vulnerable registration service? Do they have X amount? Do we have access to income and expense data where we know something about the client? Based on the knowledge, you can go down different directions. You would do the same in a human environment also, where you would handle different customer segments with different agents and different dialogue paths, etc. Before we jump, Kevin, please jump in.
Just pick up on that very quickly there, Martin. All of us are very familiar from having years involved in outbound, but right party connect. So making sure that when you speak to somebody, you're actually speaking to the individual. This is where the nuances of a human being, obviously being able to identify if you're expecting to speak to a male and you're speaking to a female, are you speaking to the right person, or indeed, do they have authority to speak to you anyway? Which is, again, part of the agenda in the UK around vulnerability. You might be speaking to the carer with an authority. So this is where the guardrails become quite important, where we're using the AI, is that the deterministic piece is important, particularly if you're coming off the back of an ID&V type call, that you've identified this is a legitimate person I can speak to before you disclose any personal information. And, Fred and Rob may have some experience in that area, because that's becoming more and more important here, because you are putting out a lot of calls. Most households have 2 adults in them.
Good points, and maybe lead it down to Fred. I'm coming back to you a little later on before we end it, because maybe you could elaborate a little bit in the end of this session here about what does the result look like, and what do you need to do when you start, and what is the period, because it's not that like success overnight. Things are, as always with humans also, is a process that you are going through. Let's get back to that a little later on. Rob, you and me have been cooking, or you have been cooking. I think this is some of the inspiring thing. I'm sitting here in Denmark, Fred is sitting in Holland, and we are coming from the European countries or Scandi countries. And then in UK, you do more around both vulnerabilities, but you also have something that you have that we don't have up here. I never heard on it before I came. But when I met you the first time, besides your good energy, I loved precisely the concept. How can you engage and get positive engagement? And before I let it over to you, let me set the scene forward. A lot of our clients say we have uncontactable customers, and I say that is not a word. You are contacting them in the same way as anybody else. So could you get that, we call it connection rate, get people to pick up the phone and engage with you? And you have a tool that can help people do that. Try to tell me a little bit, Rob, around it.
Yeah, of course. It's interesting that they're not uncontactable. They just don't want to speak to you, do they? they are contactable if you're right person, I suppose. Yes, I think most people know I'm the 24 billion in unclaimed benefits guy. So yeah, every year in the UK, £24 billion in benefits go unclaimed, and mainly because people aren't aware that financial support is out there for them. So you talk around the tech and different kind of journeys and reversing things and rethinking things. I think actually you've got to bear in mind that you're probably one of 5 or 6 people contacting that person for money if they've fallen into debt, which is unfortunate. So how do you kind of differentiate yourself to make sure that that person does contact you back? They do become contactable. And one of the ways we can do that, I think, especially post-COVID, we've got used to the language of debt collectors and creditors changing from one of, red letter, final warning, to look, we're here to support you. And I think at first that carried some weight, but it's now become the norm. As I say, especially post-COVID, we expect that now. So how do you, when you're trying to contact these people, especially like you say, Martin, the really uncontactable ones, that the age debt maybe the really black stuff, how do you differentiate yourself? So I think firstly, understand there are two reasons, excuse me, that people aren't engaging, and that's either because they won't pay or they can't pay, and the won't pay is you're not going to contact. That's just a fact. So the can't pay is why aren't they engaging? I think that's because the word's been mentioned before. Debt's emotive. I heard it referred to once at an event as a fail on the adult scorecard, which really stuck with me, and it's quite embarrassing, as you said, Fred. One of the advantages of an AI agent is that fear of judgment and the embarrassment. It takes that away from the equation. So debt's emotive. So what do we do? How do we get to those can't payers? Well, we try and give them the means to pay. So we have our Better Off calculator, which is it takes just 30 seconds to check if you're missing out on benefits, signpost you to the places to apply for those benefits. As a customer of ours, you can see the impact. I think you may have seen the nationwide work we've done. They uncovered over £75 million in unclaimed benefits for customers in 6 months. And you would call that a prime portfolio as such. This is Nationwide Building Society, and that was £75 million for their members. And there's loads of stories like that. We work with Lance as well, and Martin. We've got mutual partners. So the can't pay is reached out. So what do you put in that outreach? Hey, we're ABC Debt Collection Agency, and did you know that on average we uncover £520 a month in additional income for our customers? Share some of your impact. Give them a link to the calculator. It takes just 30 seconds. Yeah. If then they go through, and there's a likelihood that 40% chance that they're going to find something they're not claiming for, that makes you the first of the 5 or the 6 to get paid. It breeds that loyalty. Yeah, and I just think precisely. Yeah, why can't we get to a place where falling into debt, or enforcement agent turning up at your door giving you a call is terrible. That letter on the doorstep is terrible. But why can't we get to a place where that happens, you get into that situation, you maximize your income, you go to Google or Trustpilot, and you leave a 5-star review to really change the narrative of debt collection? I don't see why we can't get there to say, hey, I fell into debt, it was terrible, I lost my job, or there was a life event that
unstigmatize it, make it okay. And Rob, I know that you know that story that I've been telling a little bit here and there, but when I was a young lad, I owed some money, okay? And I had actually 3 collection agencies that I owed money. I was a mess, And then I did something, I experienced something, and I know the story, the chocolate story, but I think it's quite relevant here because that was the old days. This one collection agency, they sent out a letter, and in the letter there was a green chocolate in. And they was like, please pay us and eat the good chocolate while, consider us, and we just want to reach out and contact, blah, blah, blah. Then I didn't pay. And then a couple of weeks after that came in a new letter with a yellow chocolate in, the light signals. That was like a little bit warning. And it was a little bit, the word in the letter changed a little bit. We like a little bit, could you please contact? The last one came a month after with a red chili chocolate in. And it says, we are a little like, sour now that you don't reach us back. We send you truck. But when I got money, it was the first agency that I called to and fixed my debt because it was like a positive engagement. It was like bam, bam, bam. And I think what you and me have talked about, precisely, I could always imagine an SMS going out to a client and saying, this is not an enforcement kind of contact. This is a supportive contact. We will be calling you within weeks, I said. After the call, we will give you access to a calculator where you could see if you could get access to unclaimed benefit in average X amount cover. Wow, that's not a message saying, hey, let's go to court. I'm going to come and take your car or something else to set it a little bit dramatically. But I think that's the whole case. And we actually tested this a long time ago. Does it work? And yes, it does. Of course it does. It's logical. People want to engage more likely with you if you have a positive narrative and message compared to the upside. And I think you're right. If you have 7, 8 debt or letters in front of you, who do you choose to engage with? Probably the most positive one, probably the one who wants to support you and not hunt you down in a bad way. Yeah.
I agree. And the reason you avoid that call is because you've probably been through a 45-minute income and expenditure exercise with somebody to still find out your skin and you can't pay. So in your mind, it's what the result's going to be. So what's the point in contacting them? Because you've got to suffer that embarrassment and that shame. Also, a lot of people lie about debt. So it's never convenient to take the call because they're in front of colleagues or the partners, etc. So I think send them the chocolate, and if we can maximise their income, it makes them more financially resilient.
I think another dimension is how you're communicated to, and I think we're not all blessed with being multilingual as Fred and Martin are, and I guess you are now these days, Rob. But these reach out campaigns, whether it be about income optimization or others, but communication preferences are key. So if English isn't first language, which is often a barrier, it's how you use some of those early engagements to actually work out how we best communicate, particularly if the bot does provide that capability at the very least to deliver information around signposting or pushing information to the right party in it, rather than just having a straight blocker where people typically hang up the call very early on in it. It's trying to avoid that, where, you know, at the moment, that deterministic AI can include detection of, you know, say, English not first language. So there's a lot of tools in the toolkit that can be used compared to a traditional voice agent.
Yeah, I think also, and I think, don't forget, like, a lot of the agencies and a lot of the companies right now give no opportunities to speak with anyone. And I think if you just say, like, you need to pay and otherwise the bailiff will come, or you will receive this letter, I think we should see it slightly different. Why don't, I think a lot of the agents still send the same message, the same script, the same things that you do. I think, how do you think that somebody is already hanging almost with a lot of debt? If you don't give them any opportunities to make a decision themselves, they will never pay. They will not be able to pay. So just turn around the message. What message do you like to spread? You would like to give them the opportunity to make their own decisions still. They lost a lot of that trust in themselves. So I think if you have a positive attitude, and I think that is also a little bit, if you implement AI in your workflows as an add-on inside your environment or outside with us, that's also possible. At the end of the day, if you just push people, you push them further down the line. You need to help them. You need to understand the situation.
Empower.
And I think that's the customer journey improvement.
Yes. Empower them.
Yeah, empower people.
I
Give
think
them
you're
the
so right. Yeah.
We've got 4 minutes left.
We got 4 minutes left.
Rob.
Yeah, but here in the end, I would also like to hear a little bit, Fred, just in the last comment. You went live, just a minute short talk, bam, about how did you see the results going up? What do you need as a new startup to do this? What do you need to expect?
Now, the result is, first of all, what kind of message do you would like to spread to the customers? That's one thing. And at what time? Do you do it unannounced or announced? Announced, always. And why? Just be sure that everybody expects that call, that he knows you don't have any tricks that you hide yourself. No, we come to you and try to help you to solve this outstanding debt so you could move on. And we're not pushing, we're friendly. If people hang up in the phone, find another step in your process, in your workflow, how to reroute that customer. Stay in contact, because that remains the main target. Help them, let them go to a self-service portal. If you don't reach them, say that they can call back on the same number at the time they want, because this is an AI agent. It was announced. They were called by an AI agent. People want to call back. Does it work for all ages? I don't think so. So if you have a date of birth, you see somebody of 70 or 80 years old, I'm not going to say they love to speak with an AI agent, but at the end of the day, that should be a human call in my perspective. But anyway, I think it is not the way how we like to send a message. Try to think how a person would like to receive a message. And what can you offer to help him? And if you do that from the pre-collection stage, probably a lot of debt collectors will say, like, oh, that's not fun because we get less cases. Yeah, you get less cases, better quality. That's another story. And I think that's a little bit the story, what I want to say. If you just don't replace your humans with AI, just put them side to side. Let them help each other. And don't forget, like, our AI agent will start. It's not 100% perfect at the same time. But it will start as the same AI agent in your call center. You will help them to build up to 100%. And then they will stay and they become more clever. So don't think about replacement. Rethink your process before you implement anything.
I love that. I love that last comment around it. And this is precisely not about replacement anybody. This is about adding a very powerful tool into your omni-channel strategy that this is. Any last word from any of you good gents here on this Friday here? We have 1 minute left before we leave people. Robbie?
Yeah, I think I have one. I think just my advice is, if you keep, repeating the same process and expecting a different outcome, I think it's a definition of madness, isn't it? So I would say, if you're doing that, you're kind of relying on something to change in the customer's life, actually be that change. So income maximization is one way to do that. And they're not going to stumble on this. So put it in front of them, help them make that change. Then you're in control of making that change, and then hopefully you'll get the engagement.
I think in terms of future events, I think there are a number of us at the Vulnerability Registration Service event next week. I think, Rob, you are, certainly Martin is on it, and many of these discussions will evolve through the course of that. We've got a mixture of the regulators talking as well as industry specialists, and I get another slot to speak then. So hopefully we'll see everybody next Friday after that event with some good news.
Hopefully we do. And with that said, and we will just say thank you for joining in for this half hour. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the good weather. I hope it's just a good weather you are, as it is here in Denmark, where it's just sun is shining. It's amazing. We wish you all a fantastic rest of the day. Happy weekend. See you soon. And goodbye for today.
Cheers, gents. Bye all.
Bye.